Apart from GitHub's main functionality being a code hosting site, the site does actually offer quite a few other features. If, for example, we renamed our readme.txt file to readme.md, we would be able to use Markdown to actually format the readme page, which is displayed here to actually allow your users to get an insight as to what your project is all about. So let's go ahead and do that. We can simply rename this to readme.md, and we're going to be able to actually use Markdown to actually format this page now. So we can add a heading, and if we commit this change, we can see that we've deleted the readme.txt file and added the readme.md file. If we now push this across to GitHub and refresh our page, we can see that this is now updated, and we've got our heading which is now formatted properly using the Markdown formatting. The next interesting feature of the GitHub website is gist. Gists are very short pieces of code which are not necessarily tied into an entire project. So we could create a function here and we could share this with other collaborators. And we can either share this secretly or in public. This allows us to work on individual methods, which will be of some use to other collaborators, and they can then use this code in their projects or in their branches. So if, for example, someone was having difficulty implementing a feature within their branch, you could provide a sample function which actually works, which they can then copy into their branch, rather than you having to go in and actually manipulate their branch yourself. Apart from gist, another useful feature is the wiki. It's possible to create wikis for every single project that you create on GitHub. And if you do create a wiki, anyone with a GitHub account is able to access it and update the content to help you along the way. Which means that you obviously don't need to maintain your wiki entirely yourself. Your users have the ability to help you with it themselves. Next up, we have a couple of features which are more useful for project managers, but other people within a project may find them useful. The Pulse overview page is a very simple dashboard which shows you what's happening with your project at any point in time. So you can see in this period, from the 21st of April to the 28th, 3 issues have been closed, which we closed in a previous video talking about issues. If we have different contributors to the project, we can see how much code each individual person has committed on a per user basis. We also have this high level summary, which explains that excluding mergers, one author has published 5 commits to the master branch and 5 commits total. On master, 4 files have changed and there have been 5 additions and 1 deletion. We also have this overview of how many issues have been closed and how many people have contributed to closing those issues. If we look in the Graphs tab, we can see a lot more information as well. So we can see that the contributions has increased over time, as you would expect. And Stretch Projects has committed 5 actual commits, adding 24 lines and deleting 2. If you had multiple contributors to a project, you would have one of these sections for each of those contributors, which allows you again to actually monitor who's doing what with the project. You can see that in the Traffic tab we have how many people have actually visited the actual repository. Because this repository is only a temporary repository, there are obviously not many people visiting it other than myself. We then have things like the commits view, which actually displays how many commits have been made over time, as well as the code frequency view, which allows you to see how many contributions have been made per week. And then the punch card, which shows you what times and what days people have been making these contributions. In the Network tab, we're able to see an overview of all of the branches and who's working on each of those branches, as well as activities such as merging those branches together. And finally, in the Members tab, we're able to see who has actually forked the project, which obviously, because we've only created this test project for this video, no one has obviously forked it. So the point of this video was simply to say that GitHub itself is a lot more than just a simple code sharing website. It does allow you to do a whole host of other things, which are useful not just to the developers themselves, but also to project managers who are able to monitor what their team members are doing. In the next video, we're going to take all of what we've done so far to the next level and migrate from the GitHub client, which we've been using so far, and actually start using the GitHub terminal, which will allow us to do basically all of the same activities that we've done so far, but in a much quicker way, as well as a whole host of other activities which are not really possible without the actual terminal. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that.